Today is Friday, March 16th, 2018. My name is Edna Sussman. I'm a reference librarian here at the Half Hollow Hills Community Library in Dix Hills, New York. We're interviewing Fillmore Frank, a 1958 to 1962 veteran in the Navy, as part of our Veterans Testimonial Project and in collaboration with the Library of Congress's Veterans History Project. Thank you so much, Phil, for your service and for being willing to participate in our project today.
Thank you, Edna.
Phil, where and when were you born?
I was born July 27th, 1939 in Millville, New Jersey.
And who were your parents and their occupations, their names?
My father's Harry Frank. My mother was Edith Frank. They had a little tailor shop in Millville, New Jersey, and shortly thereafter we moved to upstate New York, the Catskill Mountains, Liberty, New York.
Oh yeah, I know Liberty.
And Sullivan County, and we had a little place there, and I lived there. Went to school in Grahamsville, New York, Tri-Valley Central School in Grahamsville.
Is that near Liberty?
It is not too far from Liberty. I was living in Bradley, a little town between Liberty and Grahamsville. Grahamsville was closer, so they had up till 7th grade, I went to school in Grahamsville. Mm-hmm. They had no high school, so then I went to Liberty through high school.
Okay.
Completed high school. I went to 1 year of college in Middletown, Orange County Community College in Middletown, New York.
And so let's just find out the rest of your family. Do you have any siblings?
I have none. No, none. I was the only child.
And what did you do before entering the service? You finished high school.
Finished high school, 1 year of college.
Okay.
And realized that college was not my thing.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I had no goals, had no wonderful jobs that I was looking to, career that I was looking for. So I decided to go into the service. Mm-hmm. And being not too strong and not too big, I think the Army and the Marines were not for me.
Okay.
And so I was choice between the Navy and the Air Force.
What year was you enlisted then?
Yes,
what year
1958.
Was that? Okay.
Went to Middletown, New York, where the Navy recruiter was, and signed up for the Navy. And was shipped or sent very quickly to Great Lakes, Illinois for Naval Training School. Mm-hmm. Completed that, and then at that point we were asked to choose what type of naval career we wanted.
Really? Like specialized training? Yes. Okay, now before we go into that, do you remember your instructors for basic training? And
I don't remember any of their names.
How long was the basic training?
It was about 10 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We learned basic military procedure, military ranks and rates to familiarize ourselves, different ships that were that were serving in the service in the Navy. Courtesy, how to make your bed,
okay,
and
that's
how to get up early in the morning, and exercised, and naval procedures.
How was it adjusting to the military life?
Well, it was quite different.
Yeah,
quite different. Of course, I was living in the country, and not a city kid, mm-hmm. and it was there were farms around, and that was my life. And then it was altogether different going to Great Lakes, Illinois for boot camp.
Was it a big base?
Oh yes.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of schools there, Navy training schools, mm-hmm. And then I volunteered for submarine duty.
Oh.
So the submarine school was in New London, Connecticut. Mm-hmm. That was another interesting concept.
How did you get from Illinois to Connecticut?
They flew me there.
Flew you there.
Yeah, it was transportation supplied by the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember one thing stands in my mind. We had a tower about 50 feet tall. It was filled with water.
This is in London?
In New London, Connecticut. It's part of naval training. Mm-hmm. And the purpose of this was if a submarine sunk, and you had to get out of a submerged submarine into the ocean, you had to know how to do this properly.
Oh.
So this 50-foot water tower, and at the base was an entrance, a compression chamber. We went into that with our bathing suits, and they opened the door into the water, 50 feet. We were at the 50-foot depth level.
Wow.
and you had to take a deep breath and go to the surface on your own.
How do you, I guess, floating, you normally would be propelled up anyway, or?
Yeah, you surface. And one of the big things they said was you must exhale all the way up because the air in your lungs are compressed to the 50-foot level. And when you get to the surface, if you held your breath, your lungs would explode.
Oh my.
And they had divers every 10 or 15 feet. So if they saw that you were not blowing out bubbles, they would grab you, punch you, so you would exhale. So your lungs would not explode before you hit the surface.
So first off, this tower is attached to the submarine?
No, this is just an open tower. It's part of the trainings, in the training center.
In the water?
No.
No.
It was just a 50-foot, just sitting out there in the.
Oh, well, how do you?
By itself.
How do you get up? How does it propel you up? How do you get up that if it's not in the water?
You float. You float. You don't
Is there water in it?
Oh, it's full of water.
Oh.
It's full of water. 50 feet full of water.
And how long does it take for you to get up to the surface?
Not long. A minute maybe to do the 50 feet. But for that period of time, you're exhaling. You can't be, you want to breathe in.
Yeah.
Or at least stop. Your lungs feel like they're starving for air.
Right, sure.
So you want to breathe or at least hold air in what you have.
To save it, yeah.
Save it. And as you're coming to the surface, they see that you're not blowing bubbles. You must blow. They come in, like I told you, they punch in the stomach so you start bleeding.
Did they have to do that to you?
No. I didn't want that to happen. I blew as hard as I could all the way to the surface. So I passed that part of it. But that was the biggest thing that stands in my mind as far as the schooling goes. Oh, part of the schooling, we went onto a submarine. And we found out that a number of people were claustrophobic. Because submarines are confined space, and there's no windows and no doors to the outside, so they're claustrophobic. And a number of people were discharged from submarine service because they were claustrophobic.
But they weren't discharged from the
Navy.
No,
they went on a surface
ship. Had other options. Yeah. What made you decide to pick that?
I don't know. It was just strange. It was just strange. I don't know if I should say this. And when I went into the service, I used to bite my nails. And somebody told me that biting nails was a sign of nervousness. And they don't take nervous people on submarines.
Oh.
So I stopped biting my nails.
Well, that's a good thing.
I wanted to go on so badly.
Really?
I stopped biting my nails so I wouldn't appear to be nervous.
That's cool. Had you ever been on a ship, big ship?
Never. Catskill Mountains.
Yeah.
There was little lakes around. There was rivers.
Yeah.
Never sink river.
That's interesting.
But never been on a ship before. It intrigued me to try something different.
How long was the training in London?
It was about 3 months.
3 months, wow. So what were you learning, a specific duty on the submarine, or does everybody learn everything? Or
you learn everything. That's one of the things on a submarine. Everybody has to know everything. In case if you've ever seen any submarine movies.
Yeah, long ago.
And the ship gets depth charged.
What is that?
And your submarine is submerged, and people above you, the enemy, is throwing depth charges down at you, trying to destroy you in your submarine. So when water starts spewing out, you have to know what valves to shut off to save the submarine from sinking. So you have to know everything from bow to stern. You have to know basically every operating valve and lever and link and to save the submarine in case of an emergency. So
I would think everything on a submarine is a matter of life and death. I mean, if you don't do something you're supposed to do, it can be disaster for everybody.
Sure. I remember the first time they put me on the helm of the submarine.
Okay.
I'd never, you steer a car. I was a car driver. Right. You see, when you're out at sea, you turn the rudder, and it doesn't respond like you do in a car. So I saw the picture of me steering the submarine, and it was like weaving. I was going like this. I couldn't keep it straight to the straight line. But that's what the training is all about, to teach you how to do it properly. Wow. So eventually I got it right.
Submarines are big. They're very long?
Well, they vary. My first submarine was a USS Cutlass, SS-478. And it was a diesel electric sub. That means on the surface, we ran on diesel engines, and submerged, we ran on big batteries, diesel
Oh.
electric.
How long does a battery last on a submarine?
Forever. I mean, forever. You have to keep charging it.
Oh,
You have to come to the surface periodically, run the diesel engines, which recharge the batteries.
oh, that charges the battery. You
Yeah.
don't have to go to port and
No, no,
plug
no,
in
no.
or something.
No, you recharge it. But then, that went out of commission, and afterwards, I was transferred to the USS Theodore Roosevelt.
Now, where was that first submarine stationed?
It was around New London, Connecticut.
Okay.
There was no base anymore for the subs. There was no particular place where we hung out. And I went on the Theodore Roosevelt, SSBN 600. So that was a nuclear-powered submarine, ballistic missile, nuclear-powered submarine.
Also
So,
in New London?
yeah. And
Was more training involved then?
oh yes, the Cutlass had one deck, one walking deck between the forward torpedo room and the after torpedo room, one walking deck. When I went on the Theodore Roosevelt, we had 3 decks.
Wow.
So you had to know up and down.
Sure.
So it was a much bigger submarine.
How many military personnel you think are in these submarines?
On the Theodore Roosevelt, we had, I don't know exactly the number, around 250 members. And that was quite a submarine. We, like I
How
say,
long were you on that?
what we did was each submarine had 2 crews, a blue crew and a gold crew. And what we did was, I was on the blue crew, and we took over the sub and took it out to sea. And for 3 months, we were out at sea
Oh, wow.
at a time.
Which sea?
The Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean. I mean, the whole purpose of our ship was, at that point, Russia was threatening the United States with bombing and missiles and attacking the United States. So that was the purpose of our those ships.
Huh.
We had missiles aboard. We were out at sea, and if Russia did threaten the United States and fire at us, we were ready to retaliate instantly.
Wow. So you were close to Russia?
We were in the oceans, Atlantic. We had a fleet in the Atlantic and the Pacific, and ready to fire.
Wow.
Ready to fire instantly.
I guess they knew that. Or were you?
Well, obviously they knew it. I mean, the Cuban crisis occurred around that time, and we prevented, the U.S. prevented Russia from putting missiles on Cuba. So, I mean, I hope that we had some little help in preventing World War III, I
Right.
guess.
Sounds like it.
Because the Russians did not attack the United States. They knew they were going to get wiped out if they attacked us first.
Were you the one submarine and there were others further away?
They were all around the,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
But you traveled just singly. You didn't travel together.
No, not in packs, no.
Yeah.
No, we were alone. The lone's a silent service by ourselves.
Now, how was it living on a submarine? I mean, you have barracks or
Well, we have bunks.
bunks?
What they called hot bunking.
What is it?
We had 3 people, all slept in like 2 bunks.
Oh,
So one of the 3 was always on duty. And the other 2 were refresher
Backup?
training, and they were backups. We all had jobs to do. We had equipment that had to be operated, repaired if necessary. And it was very nice. I mean, the submarine was clean. That was one of the reasons I went into the Navy rather than the Army, the Air Force. In the Navy, everybody has a clean bed
Oh,
to sleep
really?
in a bunk.
oh, okay.
We get 3 complete hot meals a day.
Nice, good meals.
And meals, snacks in between. It's all clean, and you're not
Nice.
carrying a heavy rifle or ammunition on your back, sludging or going through mud and climbing. Like I've heard the horror stories of the Army and the Marines.
Yeah.
Didn't want any part of that. So we we weren't physically killing anybody.
But you still had to know how to operate
Oh, you have to
weapons.
know basically. weapons, when we were in port and tied up to a pier, there was always a topside watch. He'd walk back and forth with a .45 automatic at his waist. But basically, other than that, the torpedo,
Oh, I see.
we had torpedoes aboard, so the torpedo men knew that they were experts in firing torpedoes. We basically knew if there was a leak in the torpedo room, we were able to shut off the leak and secure the department from so the sub would not sink and take on water.
How long when you were out then for 3 months, how long do you stay submerged until you come up again?
For 3 months.
Oh, wow.
Once we left port, we submerged, and we were out at sea for 3 months submerged. We distilled our own water, so we had fresh water all the time.
Wow.
We had a lot of frozen food aboard, enough food for 3 months.
You distilled your own water, not the seawater?
Yeah, seawater, of
Really?
course. Yeah, distilled it into
wow.
fresh water, and we had nuclear-powered, engines that drove us, so we didn't have to worry about coming to port for fuel oil to
Wow.
reload our oil supplies.
Did you feel movement? I mean, did anybody get seasick?
No. That was one of the wonderful things about being in a submarine, because when you're submerged, you don't feel any waves.
Really?
No,
You feel movement?
you feel movement
I mean,
a little bit.
going
When
forward.
you change depth. You feel movement. You're going. The ship tilts up a little bit or tilts down a little bit.
To
Or-
change their position, they
Yeah,
have to tilt?
yeah.
Oh, they don't go straight up?
No. But we have rudders. The forward rudder, not a rudder, sails. They call them sails. Like they hang out, stick out at the side of the submarine, forward and the aft, and they control the depth and angle of the submarine goes in the
I see.
ocean.
Okay.
So
You don't go to the bottom, that's too far, right?
Well, the nuclear subs, the diesel electrics were only restricted to several hundred feet depth. They couldn't go down. The nuclears, they built a much stronger, thicker hull, and we could go down pretty deep,
Really?
deep. How deep we could go is, pretty well restricted.
Oh.
I mean, but we could go down pretty far down into the ocean if necessary.
I guess you don't feel do you feel the?
No pressure.
Pressure?
No. Well, occasionally, if you change depths, especially on the diesel electric, you'd have to pop your ears because the pressure on your
Really?
eardrums.
Like on a plane kind
Yeah,
of thing?
exactly.
Huh, but you
Yeah.
weren't uncomfortable.
No, it was very nice on submarines.
So the 3 months, and your tour was 4 years.
Yeah, well, what we did was we were 3 months at sea. Like I say, the blue crew took it out for 3 months, came back to port, and they changed crews. The gold crew would take over, completely different crew, new captain, new crew, new motorman,
So what
whole
did
new
you-
crew that took it over.
What
So
did you do then?
Then we were refresher training. We had R&R, rest and relaxation. We took our leave, visit family for the 3 months.
Oh, I see.
And like I said, a lot of schooling. If you look at my DD-214, I've a lot of schooling.
What did you do in the schooling?
Well, I was electronic technician. I finished my 4 years as a rate E5. E is a listed man, fifth rate, which is about as high as you could go in 4 years.
Oh, wow.
I went to a lot of schools. You see my DD-214. I went to motion picture operator school for a
And
while.
were these your choice, or they recommended you do these things?
Well, you asked to do some of them.
Okay.
And some of them you had to do. Somebody had to show, even on the ship, show motion pictures.
Oh, I see.
When your time was, when
That's
you were
great.
relaxed and off duty, you refreshed, you learned more about the sub you were on and how to save it in case of an emergency, and read books to increase your position in the service.
Were you living on the base when you were out of the sub?
Yes, we were on
In New London?
New London.
So the classes were all taught there too?
Oh, no, they were all over the place. We had equipment that manufacturers made their equipment all over the United States. And we went to their schools.
Oh, wow.
We were transported to the
Nice.
different schools to be trained on their equipment and retrained. They were always updating. So new modifications that came on. And
You didn't have a background in electronics or?
I had no background in anything.
Huh.
Everything I learned, it was wonderful. I think, one of the good things about the service, you learn respect. You learn how to take orders. You learn how to do the things you have to do. You can't say, no, I'm too lazy, I want to sleep in today. You have to perform. Yeah. I think all children today, either out of high school or out of college, should go into the service.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of that before, and I think it's a wise suggestion. Yeah.
It's
You really do learn a lot of discipline and respect.
yeah, it's very strange today. I see, kids don't want to do well in school. They don't want to go to school, but you have to learn discipline. And with just the kids, they're not getting it. It's tough. It's tough today.
How was it adjusting to military life?
It was a whole different world. It's yes sir, no sir, and how to salute and how to your manners, and when a superior officer is aboard, how to perform well and respect his position, his title. It's a whole different world. And then after they, at some point, they came up with a new piece of navigation equipment, inertial navigation, which they were installing on submarines. And I had been trained on that. I went to school, factory school on it. And they tried it on the aircraft carrier Enterprise. They tried to install it, and I was sent to the aircraft carrier Enterprise.
Oh, wow. What was that supposed to do to the submarine?
Well, it's inertial navigation. Initially compasses. Compasses were accurate or inaccurate, and they had different forms of navigating. But inertial navigation, on a submarine, it was good because the submarine does not do radical moves. So it was good. It knew when you're surfacing or submerging, if you were turning, so it knew exactly where in the ocean you were located.
Okay.
They tried it on the Enterprise. It didn't work very well.
How come?
Well, and the Enterprise is being a surface ship. There was a lot of upward and downward movement, and we kept losing control over this thing constantly.
Oh, wow.
I had to go back to the compass and find out where we were, feed the information back into the electronics of the inertial navigation system. So
it's kind of useless.
Well, I'm sure they modified it to make it work properly.
Oh, okay. Huh.
But that was very strange. So
after 3 months, then you at sea, then you had another 3 months on land.
Yeah, and I did
just
that.
Went back and forth all the time.
So I did that twice. We were out at sea for 3 months at a time, twice, and back to.
Where did you go the second time? The same thing?
Yeah, well, when you were, when we were out at sea, it was the same thing. Russia was still, a threat, and
the whole time you were in was Cold War period.
Yeah, the Cold War period. And luckily, they backed down. It did not fire at the United States, and we did not have to fire our missiles at Russia.
Did you see Russian vehicles or submarines or anything?
Well, when you're in a submarine, you don't see too much.
No.
There are no windows. The periscope is only looked at by certain officers to see what's around.
Oh.
The few times that we did surface, only so you didn't know, you didn't know where you were. You were somewhere in the ocean.
Wow.
And
for those 3 months, you don't come up to land anywhere near where you are.
No.
You go back home to New London to get out.
Right. We like R&R, when you're ashore for your 3-month period. Refresher training, learning new equipment, visiting your restaurant, leave time.
Now, when you left the ocean to go back to New London, does the submarine not travel underwater the whole time?
It's always, it restocks food, toilet paper, and it's a necessity. And
But traveling just away from where you were to go back home, you travel as a submarine underwater?
Oh,
or no?
No. The submarine was went to its port to do its restocking, and then the cruise just changed.
Right, but getting from the Pacific Ocean or wherever you were back to New London.
Well, of course we
traveled underwater.
Yeah, right, to get back to port.
How long does that take in a submarine?
Well, it depends on where you are. We were out, the total time was like 3 months at sea.
Right.
And getting out to your location where you're going to be and getting back. It's included in the 3-month period.
But you don't know how long you were actually traveling from the States to near the Russians. I'm wondering how long the trip took.
I don't know.
Yeah, you were underwater.
We were out at sea. We weren't, where we were just wandering around just to be out at sea and be available to fire, and it's instantly to retaliate if Russia had started something.
Were you nervous about that? I guess you tried not to think about it?
Yeah, well, you know why you're there.
Yeah.
you know why you're there. You're there to retaliate if necessary. And luckily, we didn't have to.
Yeah.
Because they realized that it was senseless to start anything with the U.S. because they were,
Because you were there.
well, because our subs were there.
Yeah.
We had a lot of them out there.
Really?
Yeah.
How
all
many
over.
do you think?
I have no idea how
Yeah.
many we had.
Wow.
But, I mean,
How do you, if you're in a submarine, how do you stay in touch with family and friends?
you don't.
You don't?
You don't. We're out at sea. There's total, there's no contact at all.
And they probably
There's no mail.
wouldn't have wanted you to either. 'cause-
No, you can't.
No, you
It's-
can't, but I mean, you shouldn't divulge where you are probably,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
So-
It's nobody's supposed to know where you are. You're
Yeah.
out there somewhere, and obviously the Russians were looking for us. They knew that the submarines were up there.
Yeah.
We were somewhere in the ocean. They knew they were probably looking for us.
Huh.
So it was.
Wow.
Luckily, they never found us and never threw any depth charges at us.
Now, what is a depth charge?
Well, if you see some of the old movies, it's like a 50-gallon drum full of explosives, and they're designed to explode at different depths.
Ah.
So if a surface ship knows that an enemy submarine is in the area, it will throw off these drums full of explosives, and they explode at different depths, and hopefully, it explodes. The goal is to explode near a submarine and destroy it. Make it sink.
So they are not on the submarine, those depth charges. They're on ships.
On surface ships,
Surface
trying to
ships.
kill submarines.
Got it.
Yeah, we had torpedoes aboard.
Okay.
That if we had to, we would fire some torpedoes at a surface ship to destroy it. But our main purpose was the missiles, firing missiles to prevent the United States from being destroyed.
Yeah. Huh. Did they have recreational opportunities on the
the subs?
submarine? Yeah.
Well, we played a lot of cards and bingo and chess, and they had movies. We watched movies all the time. I went to movie
yeah.
operator
Yeah.
school, and I
Nice.
just read it's so different today.
8mm film, is that what you had?
Yeah, 35 millimeters.
30, okay.
There, yeah.
Nice. What now, the training that you did, what else did you learn?
Oh, I went through the million schools: electronic technician school, submarine school, sonar electronics, motion picture operation, special technology. A lot of,
Wow.
there's so many, and then of course schools to increase your position in the service.
Ah,
You start off as a seaman recruit in boot camp, then you become a seaman apprentice, and then a seaman, and
oh,
then you learn a trade, and the third-class petty officer. I went into electronics. And
what was what was your title? I mean, you had the same job once you reached a certain point? Or?
Yeah, well, I was an ETN2, electronic technician, second-class petty officer.
Ah, okay.
That's how I completed my my tour in the Navy.
So recreation was on board?
Yeah, we didn't go ashore. When I was on the Cutlass, the diesel electric, when my first submarine, we pulled into Holy Loch, Scotland.
Oh,
We tied up to the pier, and the Liberty crew, half the crew stayed aboard to keep the ship safe and do things aboard, and the other half was granted liberty in Holy Loch, Scotland.
nice.
So,
How was it? Well, you were the Liberty half?
well, we did. We alternated.
Oh, you alternated.
We went back and forth.
Okay.
So, but I remember half the Liberty crew went into the nearest bar, and the other half went to the nearest tattoo parlor.
Oh, jeez, really?
Yeah.
Where did you go?
Well, I wasn't much of a drinker. So then they were saying, Phil, get a tattoo, get a tattoo, get a tattoo. So I did. I ended up getting a little tattoo. They said,
Oh, you did?
you got a girlfriend or a scroll or something? So I got a little tattoo on my shoulder with an anchor and a wreath and the letters USN.
Oh, nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
You weren't married at the time?
No,
right?
no.
So how old were you when you went in?
Well, I just completed my 1 year of college. I was, I think, 19 or 20.
Wow, young, very young.
Yeah.
So when your tour ended, did they give you options to re-up, or what happened
Oh, yeah.
after your 4 years?
Yeah, I just, I had enough. 4 years was
Really?
enough Navy. I
Okay.
went down, I wanted to try something different.
Okay, but you stayed in the reserves for a couple of years.
Yeah, well, that was an obligation. About once a month, for a weekend, we went aboard the destroyer. I was aboard destroyer, the Sullivans.
In New London?
No, this was out of Brooklyn Navy Yard.
Ah,
At that point, I was living in Brooklyn. I went back to Liberty after this, and there was nothing there to keep me in Liberty, so I went to New York City, got a job fixing business machines.
Oh, really?
Frieden, if you know Frieden, Monroe, Royal typewriters.
oh, Royal, I remember.
You know,
Yeah.
it was a biggie back then.
So do you think your training in the service helped you learn
Oh,
this?
yes. It was great advantage. I mean, I never could have gotten the schools that the training I on the outside that I did. It helped me tremendously on the outside with, working on business
Yeah.
machines.
How long did you do that?
I did that for about 5 years. Met my wife and got married.
Oh, yeah? How did you meet?
It's funny. When I was working for Frieden, one of the fellows there was dating a girl, and his girlfriend knew my wife,
Oh,
and they introduced us. So we dated and eventually decided we were in love with each other. We got
nice.
married.
Nice.
So
And you stayed in Brooklyn working?
yeah, I did that until electronics killed the mechanical business machines. And then I took a job in the New York City Transit Authority.
Oh, nice.
I put 25 years in with them and
Really?
retired from them.
Nice.
Now retired.
Now, when you came back, how were you received by your family and community? Did you go back to Liberty right
Yeah,
away?
well, it was my mother and father.
Uh-huh.
Actually, my mother had passed away earlier.
While you
So-
were away?
Yeah.
Oh,
So my father was the only one, and there was nothing there. I had no other family. No, so well, to like I say, New York City, and I found a job.
how was the adjustment to you to civilian life?
Oh, it was a big change
Really?
too. Now you're on your own.
Oh,
You have to cook your own meals and make your own, make your bed again, but take care of business by yourself. And the Navy did a lot for you. And
so once a month in the reserves you served?
yeah, I went aboard the Sullivans and learned a little bit about destroyers and how they function, and went out to sea with them for a weekend.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh, nice.
So that was a new experience, and found out that on the surface I used to get seasick.
Oh, no kidding. You must have felt the movement
Yeah, there was a
more.
lot of movement bouncing around. I did that when I was on the Enterprise too, and I remember being on one of the decks, and watching the bow of the Enterprise, and out at sea, and it's just really slow circles. Slow. That was about my stomach was doing the
I
same
bet.
thing.
I
Slow circles.
Wow.
So I realized that submarines were the thing for me. It never happened. I never got seasick.
Isn't that
So,
interesting?
yeah.
You just don't feel it under the
No,
surface
when you're
that far.
submerged.
Yeah. Wow. Do you know how fast a submarine goes?
Oh, I don't know.
You don't feel that either.
No, you don't feel acceleration.
Have you remained in contact with any of your fellow veterans?
I did for a long while, but then we all went our own ways.
Yeah.
And,
And you're a member
Well,
of the local
I
American?
joined the American Legion.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
I did. I lived for a while up in Wurtsboro, New York, and I joined
Okay.
up there at the American Legion, and then now moved out here to Melville
Uh-huh.
and joined the American Legion here, which
Nice.
is very active.
Yes.
Post 1244, very, very active
Yeah.
Post.
Yeah, it's a great post.
They
They
do-
always do our flag ceremony
Yeah,
for the
we
reception.
do a lot of Calvary Cemetery. We have one gentleman who's a member of the post, and he finds ashes of deceased veterans who were not claimed by anyone.
Where
They-
are they? Kept?
Well, they're kept in funeral parlors in some cases.
Wow.
Or maybe the cemeteries have a place for them. And, so we go through the process of burying them properly.
Nice. But they're still not identified.
Some are, some aren't. You can't find relatives. Some of them are just unidentifiable.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Can't find. So it's something we do.
What do you think are some life lessons you learned from the military? You mentioned before about discipline and respect.
Well, it's a whole different world. When you're a civilian, you want to tell your teacher, I don't like the way you're functioning, or you want to tell your folks, or they say, you're not supposed to watch these programs on television, do your homework, and you say, well, I'm tired today, or I'm sick, I don't want to go to school. Well, you can't do that in a service.
Yeah.
You have to perform properly, you have to have respect and manners, and I think it's something that all children should go through. Like I say, if you don't go to college right out of high school for a year or two, and if you go to college and after college.
Yeah.
It's something that I think all, and men and women
Yes,
should
definitely.
go through this. It's an important thing that,
But that probably wasn't difficult for you, but were there others that had trouble with that, trying to adjust to military life and...
oh, I'm sure, some people, didn't deal well with the discipline.
Discipline, yeah.
You have to learn things and go to school and be taught different things, and especially if you go into the, like say, Army or the Marines, you're carrying around big. If you
yeah.
watched any of the movies,
Yeah.
they
Heavy.
It's heavy. It's hard. It's strenuous, and you want to say, "Oh, come on, stop already!" You
can't do that.
No, the Navy's a little more leniency in the Navy. There is physical therapy. You're supposed to be kept in decent shape.
How did you do that on a submarine?
Oh, we had exercise equipment.
Ah.
Weights and pulleys and rubber bands and
Keep in shape.
yeah.
Wow. How do you think your military service impacted your feelings about war and the military in general?
War is a terrible thing. War is a terrible thing. And like I say, if I had any small part of keeping a war from happening, it makes me feel good. But it's a very unfortunate that countries have to feel that they must arm themselves, and because they're afraid of another country.
Right.
It's terrible. If we could save that money and give everybody a job, there should be no poor people, no people who are homeless, and it's a shame that we spend a lot of money. America has bases all over the world, keeping other countries safe.
Yeah, yeah.
And
It's a lot invested.
yeah,
It is
very
a shame.
expensive. The submarines, the cost of a submarine, you're talking about multi-million-dollar
Really?
per ship.
Wow. How long does a submarine, I guess they get retired sometimes, but do they last a long time?
Yeah, a long time. The diesel electrics, they were World War I, World War II that they served, and they just became outmoded. With the new technology, the nuclear engines that the new ships have, you don't have to put diesel fuel aboard. And you could stay out at sea indefinitely.
Wow.
As long as the nuclear reactor keeps working and puts out power, you can stay aboard, and it distills water and
Wow. Amazing.
just food. Like I say, food and toilet paper are the only reasons you have to come ashore.
That's very important. What message would you like to leave for future generations who might hear this interview?
The message is, again, I say peace, where we wouldn't need to worry about another country invading or bombing or threatening us. If it would be possible. If that's not possible, you have to arm yourself to make sure that no other country will be able to accomplish their goals, which is to defeat your country.
Yeah. So you feel our military, how do you feel about the military in general?
Well, it's a necessary evil.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's a necessary evil, but it's there, and again, for a lot of us who didn't know where we were going, it was a goal. It was something to make life possible and progress. It was a big advantage for me to go in.
You learned a lot.
Oh, terrible!
It
was a very great thing for me to be part of.
Yeah. Well, we're grateful that you were. Thank you. Anything else we haven't discussed, or you might remember you want to share?
Not really. Just I think we went through pretty much
everything.
all of it.
Thank you, Phil, for your service again and for sharing everything with us today. Thank
You're
you.
quite welcome. It's